It was gonna happen eventually. When I heard that Disney was gonna buy Lucasfilm a couple years ago and they announced that they were gonna make episodes 7, 8, and 9 and then a bunch of other spin-offs, I'm thinking, oh boy, when are they gonna screw this up? Because I knew that there was not gonna be, they weren't gonna make all great Star Wars movies. I liked Force Awakens, I liked Rogue One, and I liked The Last Jedi. Solo, a Star Wars story. Most of the time when I walk out of a movie, I know what I think. I think either I really loved it, or I liked it, or I generally know where I'm gonna place it. When Solo, a Star Wars story ended, I was just dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say. I drove home, I was with one of my buddies, and I drove home and I just didn't say a word. I was just like, did I just see a new Star Wars movie? Because it looked like Star Wars? It didn't really feel like Star Wars that much? They had some like Star Wars moments, I guess. What just happened? This was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had at a movie because on one hand, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed like the look of the new planets. I really thought that the action sequences were really well done and really well choreographed. And the music, I liked it, although it doesn't sound like Star Wars whatsoever. It more sounds like a Disney ride, and I know Star Tours is a ride in Disney, but it's weird. Like, see, this is the thing. I find it so hard to put my opinions into words. Am I like, oh, the music was great, but it doesn't sound like Star Wars whatsoever, so I feel like it doesn't really fit, but it did, sort of, in some parts. And then some other parts, like there was like this weird choir in it, and I'm thinking, am I watching Avatar? Am I watching Destiny, the game, like turn into a movie? Am I watching Halo come to life? It was so bizarre. So I guess from a total standpoint, after I slept on it and thought about it a bit, Solo, a Star Wars story has some entertaining moments, but some really questionable decisions, and some very questionable filmmaking techniques, and a very questionable story. Because this story leaves me with a lot more questions than answers. So I guess I'll start off with the elephant in the room. There's lots of talk about the directors and how they were fired and how Ron Howard was brought in to really clean up the process. You can tell that this movie went through some reshoots. And you can tell that the script definitely went through a bunch of different drafts because, to me, this feels like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in a way. Now I don't know if it was the decision of Lawrence Kasdan or Ron Howard or Lord and Miller, but it seems to me like it was, okay, well, we know that Han Solo won the Millennium Falcon from Lando in a card game. Okay, so we gotta have that in the movie. But where are we gonna have it? Okay, well we should have like a big spectacle chase with the Millennium Falcon. Okay, that'll look good for the trailer. Where are we gonna put that in? Oh, we need a heist on a train. Oh, that will look good for the trailer. Where do we splice that in? And then just the way that the story moves from set piece to set piece is really, really thin, and I'm like, oh, we're going to this place now, we're going to this place now, we need to get this character. And that's another thing that I really just did not care for. When I was watching Rogue One with all my family members, a lot of them were like, I couldn't understand all the characters. And me being a Star Wars fan, I understood it all because I looked into it beforehand and I was pretty hyped for it. So I got the characters in Rogue One. In this, there was so many like, oh, well, we need to get the money for this guy, but then that guy needs to get the money for this guy, and that guy is hired by this guy, but then this guy is secretly wanting to become this guy, and it was like double crossing the movie. And I have no problem with double crossings in movies. Like, this is a heist, like scoundrel type of movie, right? Yeah, there were so many different characters, and either a character was introduced and they get killed off, and they bring in another character, but then that character doesn't really do anything to serve the story, and they could have just used this character that they killed off, and then they brought in another character, but then this character doesn't... It's crazy. However, one thing that they did talk about in a lot of the tabloids was that Alden Ehrenreich needed an acting coach. If he did, that acting coach definitely got paid quite a bit of money because they did a really good job, because Alden Ehrenreich is actually a pretty good young Han Solo. I didn't think that he was the problem whatsoever. Woody Harrelson, I thought, did a fine performance. Jon Favreau seemed very out of place. Let's see, I'm trying to remember all the characters. Chewbacca was great as always. Lando Calrissian, Donald Glover actually pulled off his voice and his mannerisms pretty well, so good job there. Like, they got the main cast down. Emilia Clarke as Kira as the love interest was fine. Paul Bettany was just kind of okay. I feel like he could have been played by anybody. But that droid, L3, I think her name was just... This is gonna tie into another problem I have with the movie, but I did not like her whatsoever. I feel like she was just trying to cash in on the K2SO type of humor. Speaking of humor, if any of you have seen my Deadpool 2 review, I talk about how all the nerds in the audience just like decide to just, when they laugh, they just go crazy and they start like bumping elbows and they're like spilling popcorn everywhere and they're screaming at the screen. It was like I was in a zoo, and that's like every other Marvel movie. Han Solo, a joke would happen and I would like chuckle, but then I look around me and it's a packed theater, it's opening night. Not a sound. And I'm looking around, I'm like, is something wrong here? Oh wait, I'm not in a Marvel movie. I'm not in a Marvel movie with a bunch of comic book nerds screaming at the screen. I'm in a Star Wars movie. However, even in a Star Wars movie, you should laugh at least once or twice. You have a little quip here and there. Because, I mean, it is Disney, so that's fine, but a lot of the comedy here did not work whatsoever. I thought it was pretty cringeworthy, and apparently so did my entire audience. So you'll hear the joke, like this is in the trailer. Oh, how do you know how to fly this thing? 190 years old? You look great! Anyone gonna laugh at that? No? Okay, sure. And like I smiled because I'd seen it in the trailer, but like there was one moment where everyone laughed in the theater, and then everyone was kind of like, The comedy did not work. So this movie, it's like I said, it's hard to put into words, and as you can tell, I clearly don't have any notes for this. I'm just talking from the heart. It's just I don't know how to feel about this movie. So many characters that you don't really get to like, other than Han Solo, of course, because we've seen him in other movies, and Lando Calrissian. A bunch of other characters that are written fairly thin, that go on this adventure that we kind of understand, not really. We go to a bunch of planets that we don't really know, and that's fine, but I don't really understand why we're going to these planets. And I won't spoil this one part, but one character appears, and I was not having it. And I know, if you've seen the movie, we know what character we're talking about. Yeah, so if you want to know my opinion on that, I might be able to do a spoiler review for this movie, or at least a little bit of a spoiler talk, but, oh man, I thought it was dumb. And I know I'm in the minority when I say this, right? But I just thought that character was so out of place. That character has no business being in a movie about Han Solo. I'm sorry, but he doesn't. Now before I end this review, I just want to say, people might be saying, oh, this guy's just a Star Wars hater. Like, real Star Wars fans would know why that character's in there, and the real Star Wars fans would just love the movie anyways. To those people, I say that Star Wars is my favorite film franchise ever. Star Wars is the reason why I love movies, and Star Wars is the reason why I went to film school, and Star Wars is the reason why I'm making videos on YouTube. Because I think that Star Wars encompasses everything that makes movies magical. So I don't hate Star Wars. I love Star Wars. But this movie, I'm not gonna lie to myself. I'm not gonna just say like, oh, I love it because it is Star Wars. I was not impressed with Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, my opinions of this movie might change through repeated viewings, and I do want to see this movie again because I want to give it another chance. Because there were some cool things in it. Like, there's the one scene in the trailer when the Millennium Falcon is flying through the, you know, that space cyclone with the Star Destroyer and then that giant like octopus thing. That part was so freaking good. And there was actually the climax of the movie I thought was actually pretty good. But it deals with a lot of characters that we don't really know or really care about. And it's after a plot that was kind of long and dry and not really exciting. There's exciting moments, but if we got the characters down, I feel like this movie would have been amazing. And so, hey, maybe if I see it again, maybe I'll actually understand the characters, and maybe I'll just see something that I haven't seen before. But my first impressions of this movie, see, I don't give decimal ratings in my movie reviews, but I'd give this movie a 2.5 out of 5. So my Star Wars brain says, oh, Brandon, it's Star Wars, and like, you love this universe. That part of my brain says 3. And then my film reviewer side of my brain says, you know, this movie was kind of dry, not really that exciting, just like kind of lackluster. That part of my brain gives it a 2. So I don't want to do this, but I'm going to. I'm going to do 2.5 out of 5. Right in the middle. Anyways guys, let me know what you thought of Solo: A Star Wars Story. Am I just crazy? Am I just out to lunch? Star Wars fans, talk with me here, okay? But if you like this review and want to see more reviews like it, definitely hit like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. May the Force be with you. Take care.